to 360 Timmy, the podcast with interesting people in 360 degrees. You can listen on all major music streaming services and watch on YouTube by going to youtube.com/360Timmy.
Hey everyone, welcome again to another 360 Timmy. Today we're in Central Park in New York and I'm joined by David Ippolito. Now this place is very special for David. He's been performing here for 32 years in Central Park with his guitar. So you are the guitar man.
Right, well,
that guitar man.
That guitar man because it's less pretentious. It's like, are you the guitar man? No, I'm that guitar man.
And we literally normally start this podcast by walking, but we're stationary at the moment because we're looking up at the hill ahead of us, which was your audience, and this fantastic backdrop where we are now with the skyline of Manhattan behind us. So let's take a walk and how did that come about? Let's discover your background.
Whatever.
I should say, David is a singer, songwriter, playwright,
crazy, right?
And activist. Yeah, we just want to explore your story, David. Tell us all about how it started.
I will. Let me just say hi to these guys. You guys are great.
And those guys used to warm you up.
Well, yeah, by accident. No, see, keep stopping. Yeah, no. Over the years, there've been, because it's a permit situation, there have been other musicians. It was kind of like the Wild West. Whoever got there first, you know. But for the past, oh God, since 2000. So that's 23 years.
It's crazy, isn't it? How quickly?
It's crazy. I've had the permit, but every so often there's another group of musicians or somebody that want to move in. These guys, and most have been really nice. These guys are just nice guys and just say, hey, we got the permit, we'll start at 1, but finish up, do whatever you want. So they started coming earlier and they play. It's kind of like a nice classical warm-up band. It's kind of cool.
So what got you playing in Central Park all those years ago?
Well, I've told this story 1,000 times, but I tell people that about 33 years ago, after the sex, drugs, and rock and roll years in the Village, I became a failure as a human being in every way you could possibly be, and because I was a drunk and I was trying to do my body weight in cocaine, and was homeless and just a mess. That all changed in '91. And I really wanted nothing to do with music. I wanted nothing to do. At the time, I think I still had dreams of being an actor. And I didn't even understand what acting was. I didn't know how simple it was. I didn't know, because I didn't know myself. But I wanted nothing to do with that. I just wanted a simple life where I didn't have to feel so terrible all the time. And anyway, so the drinking stopped and the drugs stopped, and the way I describe it is, it's like I was born an artist, and so there's nothing you can do about that. When the lights in the building start coming back on, if you're a painter, you've got to paint. If you're a songwriter, you've got to write songs. If you're a playwright, if you're a storyteller, you've got to tell stories. It's just what you have to do.
It draws you in, doesn't it?
I think Robert Louis Stevenson, I'm not sure, but I think he said that human beings are not really free to deny the thing that gives them the most joy. And of course we can make choices, but I think what he meant was there's misery on the other side of that. If you're not at least pursuing what gives you the most joy, what's the point, you know? And anyway, so that spring in 1992, I just say the lights in the building start coming back on, and I thought, well, maybe I was working in a restaurant. It's funny, my first sober job, I was working as a bartender and a waiter.
What did you originally want to be back when you were a young man? What was your goal then?
A creator.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. You see, you don't have enough time. When I was a kid, let's go around these guys. When I was a kid, I drew the fire truck in kindergarten that looked like a fire truck. I was an artist, and I could just do that. I was an artist. My mother and father, my dad was a New York City firefighter, with 5 kids. He didn't have a lot of money, but they must have recognized something in me. I had 4 sisters and me, and they must have recognized something, because one day when I was 7 years old, my father said, "David, would you like to play the guitar?" And I said, "Yeah," and I had no idea what that even meant. But he took me to a music store and bought a guitar. I'll never forget it. It was $24. At that point, I had never heard of anything that cost that much money. So I was amazed. And actually, I looked it up. The equivalent today is like $240.
Crikey.
Well, this is 1963 maybe, or whatever. So I got this guitar, and they got me lessons, half-hour lessons, where I had to also practice for 30 minutes a day. Now, to a kid, 30 minutes is like a day. So I'm doing this thing, and the mathematical side of my brain doesn't work anyway. So they're trying to teach me how to read music at 7 years old, and I don't get it. And I'm practicing, and I'm crying, and my fingers hurt, and it just wasn't in the cards. And then the next year, I'm in 2nd grade, and I'm in 2nd grade. There were 2 guys in the neighborhood that were like men. They were in 4th grade. So they were the big kids. And they were talking about something that was going to be on the Ed Sullivan Show.
Oh, yeah.
Called The Beatles. And I'm listening to them, and I'm like, this sounds fascinating, because I'm 8 years old, I'm picturing real beetles, the actual insects. And they're saying that they sing, and I'm going, Beatles that sing. So I'm begging my mother to stay up and watch this on a Sunday night, because I couldn't stay up that late. And she, of course, she knew what was going on, but she didn't know I was picturing these Beatles. And Ed Sullivan, and here they are, the Beatles.
That's a classic clip, isn't it? That.
And suddenly there's these 4 strange-looking people, and the first song they did was All My Lovin'. Now, up until that point, in my little 8-year-old brain, I had heard rock and roll, but rock and roll was boom ba doom doom ba doom ba doom ba doom ba doom ba doom boom ba doom ba doom ba doom, or it was dum 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 dum. All of a sudden, everybody's screaming, and these 4 guys go, "Close your eyes and I'll kiss you." And John, I didn't know at the time, was playing triplets. That da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, close your da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. I had never heard anything like it. Must have been like my brain melted. I was, whoa. But I was the guy with the guitar. So I went upstairs, the next morning I got back from school, grabbed the guitar, and I found out that I could just play it. I didn't need music. I didn't need lessons and stuff.
You literally can listen
I could just play it.
That's incredible.
Yeah, so that's what I mean. I was born an artist. I could just draw pictures. I could just paint. And suddenly I got the guitar, and I can just play it.
Yeah.
So that was kind of, if that's who you are.
And you found your stage here in the park.
Well, yes, that's another long story. I started bringing the guitar to school, for little assemblies and things and parties, and I'm playing Beatles. I wish there was video then, because seeing this little 8-9-year-old kid singing Beatles songs must have been hysterical.
Yeah.
But then I inspired a guy a kid of my class named Philip Grandy, and he got a guitar.
So
The two of us started a band like in 4th grade. And we started playing. I think we might, for our age, we must have been pretty good. And we got a little drummer and we got a bass player. So 4th to like 8th grade, me and Phil Grandy are rock and rollers. I mean, it was just nuts. In a Catholic school, go figure that.
Wow.
You know, and that's coming from, the way I describe myself now is I'm an agnostic who is working really hard on atheism. I kind of go to the church of I don't know. You know, I'm not even sure about atheism, but I want to be. But anyway, so back then we're doing these things. Phil Grandy, interesting for your audience, actually had more courage than I did. Because, and I shouldn't say that. I wasn't an artist trapped in a New York suburban life.
Because you were in Hell's Kitchen, weren't you?
Well, no, at that point, let's rewind. My dad was a New York City firefighter.
Yeah.
And which way do you want to go, by the way?
You're the man on Central Park, so.
Well, I guess we can, let's see. We can go a big loop in the park this way, or we can go down to Central Park South. That might be cool because you'll see the Plaza Hotel and everything.
That sounds good.
Anyway, my dad, I was born in New York City, but my dad was a kind of a remarkable guy. How's it going?
Good, man.
Keep your eye out for all the obstacles here, don't you?
Right?
Horses,
Everything.
scooters, cyclists, pedestrians.
And these guys, the pedicabs are relatively new. So some of them are like that guy, just friendly and nice, and some of them are just wild. But anyway, so my dad, he was a remarkable man. I can say this about my father. Two things. I'm in my 60s now, and I've met a lot of people. But I don't think I've ever met another man to whom it was more important that he be a good man.
Yeah.
Now, the result is not for anybody to judge. You know, he had his shit. But,
Everyone does, don't they?
but it was important to him to be a good man.
Yeah.
And the other thing I can say about him is that to this day, I don't think I've ever met a man who kept more pain inside him. And, you know, he was that World War II generation.
Yeah.
But he just, and it would come out sideways in lots of ways, you know, that aren't healthy, aren't, you know, but he kept a lot of pain inside him, and he tried to be a good man. But anyway, so when I was little, like everybody else in New York City, like a lot of people, got on the caravan and moved either to New Jersey or Long Island.
Yeah.
We moved to Long Island.
Right.
So
Okay.
I'm a little kid. I'm out on Long Island. And so I went to Catholic school for 8 years. Knew by 12 years old that this was horseshit, and I'm just not doing it anymore. And I didn't even have the courage to tell my parents that. I just didn't take the test for the Catholic high school. But I kind of lost track of Phil Grandy after elementary school, until I met him at a party, high school party, or maybe even later. And he had dropped out and moved into New York to become a session player, a lead guitarist, and he was good. And right after high school, I became an artist, a commercial artist, because it was the next thing to do. I went to college for 10 minutes. I didn't belong in college. So I become an artist, and I meet Phil Grandy at this party. And of course, you know, we're drinking and laughing, and I said something like, well, look at us now. I'm calling myself an artist, but I'm getting a paycheck, and I'm just an asshole. And Phil looked at me with a look I will never forget, and he went, oh, I'm not an asshole. And it was like getting punched in the stomach with the truth. I was like, you're really doing what you love. You're really going for it. Fast forward again, Phil became Joe Cocker's lead guitar player. I start seeing Phil on The Tonight Show. I start seeing Phil on, in concert. But Phil and I were very similar in that he also had those demons.
Yeah.
And Phil died a few years ago. They found him because he didn't get as lucky as me. He kept living that life. But anyways.
But he must have inspired you.
Well,
get into that position with a.
Yes and no. I mean, because there was a long time, and maybe it's the reason I drank so much. I don't know, but I didn't leave the art department until I was 27 years old, and I thought to become an actor. And one of the reasons I always say that, my mom and dad, they were really remarkable people in so many ways. And I'm not saying that because they weren't my parents. They were not perfect. They had their shit. But I was in the art department one day, and I thought, maybe I'll see what this acting stuff is about. So I got out the phone book, remember phone books?
Yeah.
And I opened it to A, and I saw a place that said American Academy of Dramatic Arts in bold. It began with A. And I called them, and they said, well, we have auditions. We have actually an opening next week, or we start again in the fall. And so I said, I'll call you back. And I called my father for some reason, and we didn't have that kind of relationship where I would bounce stuff up, but I just called him. And I said, hey, Pop, I'm thinking about maybe, I don't know, seeing what being an actor is about. And they got this audition next week, and they got one in the fall, and I'm just kind of thinking, and he said, go next week. Who is this? And I said, really? He said, your mother and I always felt you belong in the arts, and more than just in an art department. You belong creating things. You should be in the arts, but we could never, it had to come from you. We could never say that to you because it can be a really difficult road.
You have to find your own expression, don't you, I guess?
And yeah, I don't know, but I was like, parents will surprise you if you give them a chance. I mean, mine did. And so I left the art department to become an actor, supporting myself as a musician in the Village. And that's the sex, drugs, and rock and roll years. It was crazy, but it was fun. It was really fun until it wasn't.
Yeah.
It was magic. It was the kind of life that people make movies about until it was really ugly.
Yeah.
And that's just, it's what killed Phil.
And many in the...
And Prince and Tom Petty and on and on. Yeah. So, but I got lucky. Anyway, I don't even know where we were or what we're talking about, but...
Well, you were getting to where you were, how you ended up in Central Park.
Oh, okay. So then I did the acting thing for a while, and I was doing, soap operas and little things. I had the occasional... Yeah, I wasn't even really doing theater. I don't sing well enough or dance well enough to do anything in musical theater except the lead.
Yeah.
Because I was an actor, and by that time I did get what acting was about and how simple and mysterious it is. But so I would go out and do these shows, and then come back penniless because I was a drunk, but I was supporting myself as Uncle Dave and Bob or Uncle Dave and MV at the Red Lion in the Village. I guess for about 7 or 8 years. It's all a blur.
Yeah. Is the Red Lion a bar?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That, again, it's a whole nother podcast. The Red Lion wouldn't be there. You want to walk by the plaza?
Yeah, can do, yeah.
Yeah, let's go this way. The Red Lion wouldn't be there if I wasn't born. And that's a whole nother story.
I'll have to go. Is it still? It's still going, is it?
Yeah.
I'll have to go find that. Whereabouts is that?
Bleecker Street and Thompson.
Okay.
And they have music nightly. It's actually one of the more successful places on the street. But when we were there, you know, we were nuts and funny and good at what we did. Me and this guy Bob was a fiddle player, and we would have a line out the door when the bitter end was empty. I mean, we were just very big fish in a very small pond, but we were so popular down there. And that went on until 1990, I guess. And then I started getting not little parts, but leads in musicals, and I would go out of this, to Iowa or Massachusetts in these theaters and do these things. And then, but always come back to the street until it almost killed me. And then that first spring, I wanted nothing to do with the music business, nothing to do with acting, nothing to do with the arts. I just wanted to feel better, live simply. And
you think you associated music with the drink?
Oh yeah, and at that point, I think you've heard this story a million times, but I didn't think I could do what I do without being drunk.
Yeah. Yeah, because it does give you a confidence, doesn't it?
Whatever. Yeah, I just.
Courage, they call it. Yeah.
So yeah. So oh, this used to be Woolman Rink. I don't know what they're doing up there on top of this rock, but I saw some amazing concerts down there.
That's it's quite a backdrop there, isn't it? With the older Manhattan.
Yeah.
With the new glass.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Behind it.
That's yeah.
Yeah.
I'm all over the place, but anyways.
Good. We're getting there.
So yes. So I think you could say this about me. They say you can't scare an alcoholic or a drug addict with death. But for me, okay, let me just show you real quick. This used to just be like a skating rink, but it wasn't ice. It was just like for roller skating, and there was a stage down there. And I saw
like an open air amphitheater.
Yeah. And so if you had tickets, you sit all there, and then there were raked seating here, but people would just come and sit all on these rocks and stuff. And I saw the David Bromberg band here. I saw James Taylor here. It was magic.
So yeah, it's obviously set up as an ice rink today. Is that all year round, or is that just?
No, that's in the fall they change it over to this.
Yeah.
And through the Christmas season.
There's a lot of ice rinks in New York, isn't there? I've noticed that. I went to Rockefeller. There was one there.
Well, that's the big famous one. Yeah.
Yeah, but then I went to a few other places. I saw.
I think Bryant Park has one. Yeah.
Yeah, there was one over the High Line. There was one around.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. Not on the High Line, but below it.
Over near there. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, this town just keeps changing. I always say it's going to be a great town when they finish it.
Wow.
It's
long may it continue.
Yeah. Right.
So you've come off the
street, and now I'm
you're
sober
and the wagoners.
Yes. And but something after about 5 months, just maybe I can make a little extra lunch money playing out on the street, and I've told you I wasn't writing back then because I had nothing of any importance to say to the world, but I happened to be able to play because I hear a song, I can play it.
Yeah.
And I have a Velcro brain for the lyrics. If a song moves me, it stays with me.
Yeah.
So I'm out there playing anything people. So anyway, so I said, let me go to the park and put out a guitar case and make a little extra lunch money. And the first day, it's actually over that way on the other side of Woolman Rink. I set up, I opened a guitar case, started playing. 10 people gathered, and in about 10-15 minutes I just started weeping in front of them uncontrollably, they're looking at me like, what's this about? And I felt like such a loser. I would hear the change hitting the guitar case, and I just felt like such a loser. Overwhelmed with whatever. Cried, packed everything up, went home. The next week, I must have been very late for something I thought was very important, which I have no idea what it was, but I was in a cab, and we stopped at a place in the park as we were cutting through the park. And we stopped at a red light, and I looked out, and I saw this place where the main path went straight, and then a little path went down to the lake and back up. And I thought, anybody that doesn't want anything to do with me or the music could just keep walking, and anybody that liked what they heard could go down this little path, and I won't be in anybody's face. So the next weekend, I showed up, and there were 4 or 5 people sitting on this little grassy knoll. And I asked them all if it was okay if I play a few songs, and they all said, sure, go ahead. And in about every song was right, and every word out of my mouth was funny or poignant or whatever. Everything was right. And in about an hour from then, there were suddenly 300 people sitting there. And what I didn't know, I played for 4 or 5 hours, and then what I didn't know, that one of the first 4 people that I asked if it was okay if I play a few songs, was a man, a beautiful man, named Jack Rosenthal. He was there with his wife or girlfriend at the time, I don't remember. And he had watched this thing happen. But he was a senior editor at the New York Times.
Oh, crazy.
And so the following day, Monday, June 15th, I get this call from an actor friend of mine telling me, go get the New York Times, go get the New York Times. And Jack had written this beautiful article about this spontaneous concert in Central Park. And he ended it with something like, old people mellowed in their memories. Young people tapped their feet and laughed and sang. Because I had played Wild World by Cat Stevens, and he said, all certain that it's not a wild world at all. Not on this afternoon in Central Park in New York City. And it was beautiful. And so from that day on, I became that guitar man from Central Park because I said so.
So that was, I suppose, we talked earlier about how things have changed since you started this, but that was, I guess, was what would be described as a viral moment.
Yes.
That launched you.
Yes, it was just, it was just a magical day. And
what's the chances of that happening as well? That is incredible.
I think very... Okay, here we go, back to the agnostic working on atheism.
Yeah.
I don't pretend to understand it, and I do not trust people who say they do. But there's a difference between proof and evidence.
Yes.
My whole life is evidence that there's something about physical reality resulting as the result of thought or desire. It's just dreaming. If you dream it and I shouldn't say you. So often when I've imagined something, it's become reality. You work towards it, of course,
yeah.
and unapologetically follow whims.
Yeah.
If I have a idea, it's just an idea. All right, so here's the Plaza Hotel.
Incredible building.
We can head this way, I think. Just hug the park. But it's my not even belief. I don't even know if you call these beliefs anymore. It's the way I live. Is that my life is constantly being made from my imagination, from what I dream. I don't have proof that that's real, but I've got nothing but evidence.
Yeah.
And I never know exactly how or why. I heard Paul Simon interviewed the other day, and he was talking about the I, whatever the I is. I'm also very lucky that I discovered probably 20 years ago, Tim, I'm a creator, so much more than a performer. And people go, you're such a wonderful performer. And like, I think that's because I tell people I was given the gift of mediocrity, where it's not going to get better than this. You know, it's like this, it's not the greatest thing. And maybe accepting and becoming comfortable with the gift of mediocrity, it makes, in a very paradoxical way, what I do extraordinary.
Well, I know you write your own songs because I listened to one coming up, Tom Cruise is Strange.
Oh.
And then you add in Donald Trump.
Oh, that's a song that I'll never get away from.
That is, I just thought I was chuckling to myself on the subway.
Thanks.
Absolutely brilliant. All the ones you cover, the Kardashians are Strange.
Well, actually, everybody, that song was written to prove to somebody, a woman I was going out with at the time, to prove to her how easy it was to write a really stupid song.
Yeah.
And something.
Do you want to give some of the lyrics, maybe, to? I know you haven't got the guitar.
No, it was, Tom Cruise scares me. How about you? He shouldn't be that scary. He's only 5'2". But 10 people saw Mission Impossible 3 because he's always talking about Scientology. Makes an ordinary guy like me say Tom Cruise scares me. But what happened was I didn't know that I had written a perfect template that I could just turn on the news and write another verse.
About anything.
So everybody has been in that song.
Yeah.
You said Kim Kardashian was in that song. She hasn't been in that song for 5 years, but I would just change them out every week.
Yeah. Your Donald Trump one about his hair.
Well, no, see, that was the old one. There have been 15 verses about him.
Oh, he's had his own changes, has he? Yeah.
I think the most recent one was something like, Donald Trump scares me, but not as much anymore, because in the last election, kicked his fat ass out the door. Oh, I can't remember it now. It was because there've been a lot. Something about the color of his jumpsuit would match his face, and that scares me.
Oh, orange. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Prison, yes. Oh, that's brilliant.
So anyway, it was just, everybody's been in it.
And that's the end of part 1. Tune in to episode 20 to hear part 2 of David Ippolito in Central Park.
Remember, you can watch the video version of this podcast on youtube.com/@360timmy. Episodes are available in regular or 360 view. More links on 360timmy.com.